everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to take a look at the Transformers Shatterglass Wave 2 Voyager class Soundwave. Let's start off by taking a look at the packaging and quickly taking a look at the comic book, and then we will get into the review. So of course up front we have Transformers on the side, we have Laserbeak and Ravage and Soundwave text, an open window displaying the figure and the packaging. We have Shatterglass, a shattered Decepticon symbol, a really cool artwork shot of Soundwave with a really nice screen for the visor and the bandana. Of course another artwork shot on the side as well within their shattered Decepticon symbol. On the back we have several product shots, one of the robot and cassette player mode. He transforms in 18 steps, and we have 2 pictures for Laserbeak and 2 pictures for Ravage. Laserbeak transforms in 4 steps and Ravage transforms in 7. There's also a really brief description in several different languages, which I'm going to read for you right now. So it says Soundwave is an expert in communications, using his skills to intercept automatic transmissions. His infectious charisma has also earned him the role of morale officer for the Decepticons, which is a pretty cool little brief description, and that's pretty much it for the back. So on the side again, there is another really nice artwork shot of Soundwave looking very cool. That's pretty much it for the packaging, so let's quickly take a look at the included comic book. And I do apologize if it's blurred out or blasted out by the lights. Hopefully you can see it, but this looks super cool. And I think I'm probably going to be doing several videos on the Shatterglass collection, probably one just solely looking at all the comic books so far, because this is actually the 10th one we've gotten. We've gotten 5 in Wave 1 and 5 in Wave 2 now, and I probably will be doing a ranking video of Wave 2. Let me know if you want me to do that in the comment section down below, so that will be coming soon as well. But of course we have Transformers Shatterglass. This is the 5th issue of Wave 2. We have Laserbeak and Ravage down there, the really cool bandana flowing behind him, his blaster and his iconic shoulder cannon, and I think that looks super cool. And that is pretty much it for the intro, so let's now get into the review. Here we have Shatterglass Soundwave in his boombox mode. Let's take a look at the details, starting at the very front with the whole cassette section. Some really nice transparent blue plastic for the old windscreen or box section. Really nice red Decepticon symbol, and of course the nice silver trim around the entire edge. I actually really do like the small details of the left and right at the corners. That's really cute and nice. We actually do have some posts here and there. Of course, this was originally the Netflix Soundwave, so they are still, of course, Blasted Paste compatible. You can plug those in there to look like he's been shot at. I also really do like the whole console. The blue and silver mixture looks pretty nice. The play, of course, the forward, back, and I'm assuming the pause and power button are there, which overall looks pretty good. And the rest of the details are pretty simple, mostly the blue and white, not looking too bad of a mixture. I know if we flip to the side, there's actually some nut and bolt design, some venting, some silver and gunmetal gray and blue. Not looking too bad. There's a bit of cable back here, but it doesn't bother me. Of course, you can obviously tell these are the arms folded up, but do not look too bad. If you're wondering what are these ports for, that's really for the weapon storage, which I'll get into in just a sec. But overall, I'm actually pretty impressed with this mold. I actually do not have the Earthrise or Netflix Soundwave, so this is a brand new experience, a brand new mold for me, and I'm pretty impressed. I think it's a pretty cool looking boombox. I actually have not gotten a Soundwave boombox figure in a while, because I did recently get the Legacy one, but that was of course just a redeco of the Siege one, which transformed into a spaceship. So this is actually the first time I've had a boombox Soundwave in quite a while, and I'm actually pretty impressed. I do have, I would say, one complaint with the boombox. I wish this whole console section was a little bit more flush with the rest of the figure. I was actually not expecting this to happen. Again, I never had this mold before, so I was a bit surprised for that to happen that way. I was hoping it'd be more flush, because actually Kingdom Blaster or Shatterglass Blaster, which I will make a comparison to in just a sec, his whole console section is much more flush, and I think it looks a little bit better than this sticking out. A very small complaints, but I wish that was a little bit more flush. I also really like the green. That actually kind of looks pretty good there. It gives a little bit of a hint, because of course this is the green from the bandana, so that does give a little bit of a hint of the color of course the robot mode. So that's a pretty nice little detail there that they put in. And overall, that's pretty much it for details of the boombox. Let's now get down to, of course, the accessories and the cassettes. So it does come with 2 cassettes, Ravage and Laserbeak, which are the exact same mold as the previous 2 versions of the Siege and the Netflix one. I do have the Siege one, which I will be making comparison to in just a sec. But of course, the classic features you can store it inside the chest or cassette section, which I'll show in just a sec. But as for Laserbeak, I always really like this mold. I think they did an amazing job in Siege, and I really do like this deco. The really nice circuitry detailing, the red and silver and gunmetal gray looks super good. And of course in the back there's a bit of cable. You can see the legs are there, but front wise I think it looks pretty cool. So you can press the button, which opens up very cleanly and smooth. You can fit this inside, which just press it inside there, and if you actually do look inside, there's some really nice mechanical detailing, some gear, some wire circuitry. I think they did an amazing job with that. So you can close this up just like that, and there's a bit of a crack, but I actually do have to warn you, most of the time when I press the button and release, of course, or open the box, typically the minicon will come flying out, which is pretty funny. I'm not really sure if that's just a my copy kind of thing, but it is ironic because, I recently did review the Studio Series 86 Rumble, and if you watch that review, I put it inside Legacy Soundwave's chest, because of course at the time I did not have this figure, and that one would always constantly jam inside the chest, but with this one, it will shoot right out. Sometimes it does stay, but most of the time it will just come flying out, which is so funny in my opinion. So there we go, it'll do like that, which I think is pretty fun. I'm not sure if that was their intent, but it's a pretty fun playable feature. You can have him transforming and ejecting, of course, like he classically does in the G1 show. So that's always a really fun feature to do, and I'm glad it doesn't jam. I was kind of disappointed with Rumble, how it always got stuck in his chest, so I'm really glad how that can fly out, and I'm assuming we'll do the same with Ravage. But here are both cassettes next to each other, and I gotta be honest, never really been a fan of the Ravage mold, but I do like the deco. I really do like the blue, silver, and white deco they got going on, and of course on the back we have a little bit of kibble, but they do look very cool next to each other, and I'm really glad these were included. But before we go on to the accessories, I do want to say something. So of course, I watched quite a few news videos and videos on Soundwave when it was first revealed, and a lot of people were thinking it looks amazing. A lot of people were not able to get the Earthrise Soundwave mold, so everyone really wanted to get another chance to get this mold, myself included. But a lot of people were really concerned about the yellowing problem. So I gotta be honest, I've actually not experienced the yellowing problem on any of my figures at all since it started. I've never had a problem with it on any figure of Shatterglass, Kingdom, Legacy, Studio Series. I've never experienced it, so I can't really tell you if it happens on this one or not, because I've never experienced it before. So it might just be kind of a weird coincidence that some people get it a lot, some people don't. I really don't know what causes it, so I really can't tell you if it happens, because I did just get this figure. I've never experienced the problem before, so I really don't know what causes it. So I would just say buy it, and if you have that yelling problem, I really don't know what to tell you. You could get another copy, try and do something different, try and store your figures a different way, and maybe change the lighting. I've heard a lot of people's theories. Some people think it's the type of climate you're in, some people think it's the type of light bulb you're using, so there's a lot of people's guesses that could be right or wrong. So I do apologize, I really don't have a good answer, but I've never experienced it, so I'm not that concerned with getting this figure. I'm not really that concerned of how long the white will last. I'm not concerned at all. But let's now get down to, of course, the accessory storage. So if you do flip to the back, he does come with the same exact 3 accessories that came with the Siege and Legacy version, and of course the Netflix one as well. And you can just get the blaster and shoulder cannon, and by the instructions, they go here. You want the peg to be facing up like that, and it actually does help the boombox stand up a little bit more straight. I don't know if you noticed before, but the boombox does have a tendency to lean a little bit back without the accessories help, so that does help a little bit with stability. As for this last accessory, this just goes right in the center like that, and there's all the accessory storage. Not my favorite, it looks a little bit odd and ugly, but of course from the front view you can barely even tell it is there. That is pretty much it for the cassettes and accessory storage. Let's now get down to a few comparisons. So first up, here he is with Shatterglass Blaster, his boombox mates, and I think they look pretty cool next to each other. As you can see, of course, mold-wise, they are completely different. I know quite a bit of talk was happening when Kingdom Blaster came out. A lot of people were thinking maybe it's just a redeco of Netflix Soundwave, but no, that is not true. They are completely different in molds. As you can see, completely different boombox-wise. This one's much more compact, much more thin with Blaster here, but I will give some compliments to Blaster. It's much more flush. I really don't like how that kind of juts out on the console section, so I really wish they had taken that approach with this one and put with that, but I think they do look very cool next to each other. And probably which one is more realistic, I would have to say Soundwave. I think it's probably more realistic to have a more thick or compact one than more of a thin one, but that is just my opinion. But they do look very cool next to each other, and they both have the really cool opening door feature, which is always fun, and they do look very cool from the side view, and again from the front view Not looking too bad. Let me know in the comment section down below of all the boombox figures we've gotten recently. Shatterglass Blaster, Kingdom Blaster, Shatterglass Soundwave. Which one is your favorite? Of course, you can include Netflix Soundwave in there, but I'm not sure how many people actually have that figure because it is a very hard to come by figure. But they do look very cool. That's pretty much it for the boombox comparison. Let's now go down to some quick cassette comparisons. So here, of course, we have the Shatterglass, Laserbeak, and Ravage with their previous versions, the Siege, Laserbeak, and Ravage. And as you can see, of course, mold-wise, they are the exact same thing. Same in the other modes, which I will do transformation for the minicons either before or after I transform Soundwave into his robot mode. But let's quickly take them next to each other. So, of course, here we have Laserbeak with Laserbeak. Really just a deco change, so it's really up to your own personal preference. And I've always really liked the Laserbeak mold from Siege, Netflix, or Shatterglass. I've always really liked it. I think they did a really good job with it. And I really like the more simple, just gunmetal gray, red, and silver. I think it actually really works. But overall, not looking too bad. And for one quick other comparison, here we have Ravage with Ravage, which again, I've never really liked this mold that much, but I do prefer the deco on this one more over the Siege one, but that is just my opinion. And that's pretty much it for comparison, so let's now get down to transformation into the robot. Let's now get down to transformation into the robot mode. So what you're going to do is start at the front. You can actually lift this whole panel section up. You can actually fold these pieces in, and how these were connected is there is a tab and slot, and that's how that was connected into place. You can then push this down like that, and then what you can actually do is separate the leg from the main body of the boombox or cassette player. So there's actually a tab and a slot, and there is also a tab and slot there, and that's how that was connected as well. You can lift this entire section down, rotate the leg that way, do the same thing on the other side, so just disconnect that, rotate it like this. You can then lift this entire assembly out like that, and how that was tied into place is there is a hook and it just latches on there, and there is a port and there is a peg, and that's how that was tapped into place. You can just fold it up, flip the foot out, fold it up and like that, and of course do the same thing on the other side. If you have either the Siege or Legacy Soundwave, that transformation for the leg is actually quite similar to those two versions of the previous Soundwave molds. You can of course do the same thing on the other leg, fold the flip the foot out, fold this in, collapse that up, and then what you're going to want to do is go back to the arms. You can separate them like that, and how this was tabbed into place is there is a tab here and a tab here and a slot and a slot. You can then bring the shoulders forward, and how that was tabbed into place is there is a slot and tab, and then you can bring this forward. There is a tab and slot, tab that into place like that. Bring the arm forward like that. You can then flip out the hand, do the same thing on the other side, so just tab the arm into place, flip the hand out. You can then rotate at the waist so the legs are facing forward. As for the last step, you just open this compartment up and you can flip out the head just like that, and then tab that into place like that, and there we have Soundwave in his robot mode. And before we get down to transformation, I do want to show how the cassettes are still compatible with the robot mode like the cassette player mode. So as I showed before, you can fit Laserbeak in the cassette player, and you can do the exact same thing with the robot. So if you just press this button, you can still fit Laserbeak or Ravage or any of the cassettes from previous lines like Siege or Earthrise or Netflix. You can fit them in his chest, which is always pretty cool to do in either mode. And of course, typically on my copy, for some reason, it typically will really just shoot out. Sometimes it gets a little bit stuck, but most of the time it will open pretty smoothly. But that's pretty much it for the gimmick. So let's now transform the cassettes, and then of course we'll take a look at the details of all three figures. So let's start off with Laserbeak. So what you're going to do is bring the wings out, so like that, flip the feet down, and then sometimes the head is a little bit hard to get out of that whole slot, so you can move the backpack up, and that will kind of push the head out of place. You can then fold this section up, and there we have Laserbeak in his bird or robot mode, whatever you consider it. And of course, the final figure to transform is Ravage, which is a bit messy. I do apologize if the legs pop off. Sometimes on my copy, it could just be my copy kind of thing. Sometimes the little legs pop off. You can just pop them back on, so I do want to let you be aware of that. So you can just flip the legs out, all four of them, even the back ones like that. Just flip them out, and then you can get this entire section, rotate this out, like that, bring these legs down, and what I'd like to do is actually fold these back up just to have some added clearance, and you're going to rotate the leg like this. Rotate these back legs like this, and as you can see, this one will typically just pop off, which is a bit unfortunate, but you just tab it right back into place. Just tab this right back in there. I do apologize that happens. I was really hoping it wouldn't happen during transformation of Ravage, but it seems kind of inevitable. Then you just push the leg through like this to the bottom, like that. Got one leg through, and then you can do the other. Get the other leg through. There we go. Back legs are done. As for the front, they're quite a bit easier. Of course, you can just bring the head out, move these front legs down like that, and there we have Ravage fully complete. Again, it's always this leg. No other leg really pops off. I'm wondering why. It could just be, again, my copy type of thing. I really don't know, because I actually have the Siege Ravage, and that never happened before, so maybe it's just this Shattered Glass one that does that. And then, of course, you kind of have to align all four legs so you can stand straight. But there we have all the figures transformed in their wolf, bird, and robot modes. Let's take a look at the details. Here we have Shattered Glass Soundwave in his robot mode. Let's take a look at the details, starting at the very top with that head sculpt. Some really nice silver for the mouth guard, some really nice green for that visor, and of course we have the green bandana going all the way to the back, which I really do like how it looks like it's actually tied behind his head. That's a super cool bandana, really well sculpted. And there is actually some light piping if you go to the top. I really don't have a light above. It's really pointing towards it, so I do apologize if it's hard to tell that there is light piping. But it is a part of it, which is a super cool feature. Of course, if we go to the chest, we have the entire cassette section with that really nice transparent blue plastic, the red Decepticon symbol, the really nice silver trim around the entire box, some more green for that hinge, which again, I really do like that because it's that same green from the bandana. The arm's mostly done in white and that really nice blue, but if you do look really close, there's a ton of circuitry, mechanical detailing, wiring on the forearms, which looks super nice. There's some white for the hands, and of course, this is kind of like the Siege and Legacy version where one is just a normal closed fist and one is a pointer finger, so you can have him pressing the button and releasing Ravage and Laser Beak, which is always a really fun feature. And of course, for the whole section here, it's sort of a faux waist or a crotch piece for the boombox. This is pretty cool. It's supposed to look, of course, like the pause and play, but the actual one for the boombox is back here, so that's always cool how they use faux pieces, and I think in this situation it works. Sometimes it kind of gets in the way of transformation or one of the modes, but this one, it really does not at all. So of course you have the play, the back and forward. I kind of wish maybe they wrote on their play like this one, but it's not on this side at all, which I think they had room. Maybe they just ran out of budget or something, but again, I really do like that faux piece right there. As for the legs, quite simple, mostly done in white with some really nice blue and silver, some venting detailing, quite a bit of nut and bolt design. The blue for the feet always look really nice. And on the back, virtually no kibble. Everything's pretty well filled in. There's no hollow gaps or anything. Overall, pretty plain, clean, and a good looking figure. So I do not have the Earthrise Soundwave, as I mentioned before, so from just guessing from pictures of the Earthrise or Netflix Soundwave, my guess is the only sculpt change is, I'm pretty sure, the head sculpt. The bandana section, I think, is the only change. Of course, there is a major deco change, but I think that's pretty much it. That's the only difference between this version and the Netflix one, which I actually might try and get someday. As for now, I'm pretty good on Soundwave because I got the Legacy one, I got this one, and I got the Siege one, so probably for now, I'm well stocked on Soundwave, but maybe someday I'll be able to get the Netflix one and make that really cool comparison. But that's pretty much it for details, so let's now get down to articulations. The head can look that far up, that far down, of course, move side to side. The shoulder can move all the way around, out and in. There is a bicep rotation, a very good elbow bend way past 90. That's actually really nice, so you can recreate some really cool poses, him pressing the button and releasing Laser Beak and Ravage. As for the wrist unfortunately there is no wrist rotation, but you can sort of move it in, but that's really due to transformation. There is a waist rotation fully and unhindered. The leg can actually kick that far forward, but you do have to move the hip skirts, so you just move that up and a very good kick forward. As for back, you do have to move that back panel back as well, and a very good kick back. There is a full kick out to the side, so you can do a full splits, a really good swivel, a very good knee bends, and of course an ankle pivots. And that's pretty much it for articulation. That ankle pivot could, I think, be a little bit better, but that is a very minor complaint. I would say pretty average for a Voyager figure. I think they probably could have worked in maybe a better ankle pivot and maybe a wrist rotation, but those are very minor complaints. Overall, a very solid Soundwave figure in my opinion. Let's now get down to accessories, and then of course we'll take a look at the details of the cassette. So he does come with the exact same three that came with Legacy and Siege Soundwave. So first up, of course, is the classic shoulder cannon, and this one, like the Legacy and Soundwave, Siege Soundwave release, there is a hinge here, so you can have it more pointed up. But for some reason on this copy, it is extremely tight, but on my Siege and Legacy version, it's extremely loose. So honestly, I would prefer a tighter one than a looser one. So you can have it angled up, but on my copy, it is a really tight hinge, so I'm not going to force anything. But of course, there is a peg and a port on the shoulder, and that plugs into place like that, and I think that actually looks super cool. I do apologize if this figure is kind of blasted out by my lighting, because the majority of the figure is white, a little bit of blue, so I really hope you can see all those really nice details, and really glad how they detailed all those little bullets or blaster ports in there. That actually looks super good with that metallic blue. That looks really nice, and quite a bit of circuitry detailing on the rest of it. Some really nice vents, overall looking very, very cool. And of course, for the second weapon is the classic blaster. So this is of course the configuration for the boombox mode. So you're just going to press that forward, bring this out, and make sure that clicks into place if you can hear that. And there is the blaster, which this is blaster piece compatible, and I really do like that silver, that gray sort of color for the barrel, and of course that really nice metallic blue and white, overall looking pretty nice. This entire section is pretty much the exact same as that one. Of course, the only new component is the nice added barrel, and you can put this in either hand. Typically, I like to have the shoulder cannon on one side and the blaster on the other, just to have the weapons spaced out a little bit, but that is just my opinion. And I think that looks super cool. Of course, the third weapon, which I think is utterly useless, it's the same weapon that came with Legacy and Siege. It's this newly added white blaster. I typically will really never use it. I think it's pretty plain and boring. And if you want to know, you can actually still recreate that whole combined cannon. It actually does not show that in the instruction booklet at all, but you can get the shoulder and the handheld blaster and attach them all. If you fold this out, it can create that full long blaster. I'm not going to show in this one because I showed it in Siege and Legacy, and I never really liked it myself, and I think a lot of people didn't like it either. But you can plug this in his hands, and I don't really think it relates to the character at all. I think it's completely unneeded, but of course they included it because it is just a repaint, a slight remold of the Netflix one, so they had to include it because people would probably think you were being cheated out of an accessory if they didn't include it. But that's pretty much it for accessories. Storage wise, pretty much it. Of course, you can swap out the this blaster, put it in that hand if you want to, and of course there's mech type ports on the forearms, the shoulders, the legs. You can plug them in several different ways, but of course this is the classic place you're going to store these accessories, and I'd say probably 2 of the 3 are pretty good. This one I could honestly do without, but I guess it's better to be included than not, because it would seem like you're kind of being cheated out of an accessory. But that's pretty much it for Soundwave for now. We'll make several comparisons with him in just a sec. I do want to take a look at the details of the cassettes now. So here is a Laserbeak, overall looking very cool. I actually really do quite like this deco. Of course, some really nice kind of gunmetal gray, black color here, some really nice red and silver for the wings, really nice yellow for that visor, and of course we have the little beak there done in red as well, and of course we have the little feet done in gray as well. And if you flip to the back, we have the boosters, which are blaster piece compatible, so those are pretty cool. Really well detailed for such a small figure, and if you do look close at the wing, tons of circuitry and really nice mechanical detail there. And I've always really liked the Laserbeak mold. I actually think they did a really good job in Siege, and if you want to, you can actually have him perching on the arm. It takes a little bit of tries, but you can balance it there. I actually did make a stop motion of this figure recently, so it could be on the channel right now, or it could be up very soon, so make sure you stay tuned on the channel for that. But overall, a very solid Minicon. As for the second cassette, which is Ravage, never really been a big fan of this mold. I think it just looks okay. The deco of this one, I think, is better than the Siege one, which is kind of odd because the Siege one is really supposed to be the classic Ravage that we know from the G1. I think this just suits the figure a little bit better, but again, I've never really been a fan of this Ravage mold. I think this is definitely desperate need for an update. As for Laserbeak, I think they really don't need to change anything, but detail-wise, mostly done in white and blue, and of course some really nice yellow for the eyes. You can probably pick out some teeth there, little ears. Overall pretty cool. I think it just looks a little bit too blocky. It was supposed to be kind of slender, you know, like a wolf or something, and I don't think it suits that character. So hopefully maybe they'll update it in maybe the 86 Studio Series line or Legacy. I'd really like that. But that's pretty much it for the details. Let's now get down to articulation of the cassettes. So for Laserbeak, of course, you can kind of hinge the wings in and out if you want to. As for, of course, the neck, there is a hinge at the base, so this can go up and down, and there is also a hinge at the head, so this can look up and down as well. And that's pretty much it. Of course, you can move the legs out if you want to, but that's really due to transformation. That's pretty much it for Laserbeak. As for Ravage, of course, the legs can move forward and back. As for the leg itself, these can also move forward and back. I would be careful because they're really not that secure, as you saw before, one of them on tab, so be a little bit gentle, and not the most, I would say, secure figure. Of course, the back legs are the same. They can move forward and back, and of course, the legs themselves can move forward and back. As for the head, of course, it can move up and down, and that's pretty much it. You can have a sideward out movement, but that's really due to transformation. I really don't know how you could stand that up with that leg out, but that's pretty much it for details and articulation of all of the figures. Let's now get down to some comparisons. So I'm just going to quickly move Soundwave off to the side for now, and let's do a quick cassette comparison. So here we have the Shatterglass version of Laserbeak and Ravage, and here of course we have the Siege, the more classic deco of them, and I think they look pretty cool. I'm going to have to zoom in quite a bit so you can see them, because they're pretty tiny figures, but as you can see, mold-wise, they are the exact same thing. Let's start off with the Ravages. As you can see, really just a major deco change. Again, in my opinion, I think this one's superior, but I've never really liked this mold that much. I think they could have done better. Let me know what you think of the deco change. Which one do you like more, the Siege or the Shatterglass? And of course, you can include the Netflix one if you want, but honestly, I think the Netflix one is just a slight change. I think it's just a little bit more shiny than this one. I don't think it's a huge detail change at all, but overall, sculpt-wise, exactly the same thing. Let me just put this one down, and then we can compare Laserbeak. Here we have the Laserbeaks, which I think I probably prefer the Shatterglass, which is surprising because this is the classic deco that we really like, and I think they both work. I think this mold is really good. I think it's a little bit more simple, as you can see, mostly done in red and some silver and black, but I think it really works. They both have, of course, that huge block of yellow on their head, really supposed to be the visor or eyes, but I think it really works. So that's pretty much it for the cassette comparisons. Let's just move all these off to the side so we can have some more full-size comparisons for Soundwave. So I'm just going to have to move the camera quite a bit up, zoom a bit out. Here we have, of course, Shatterglass Soundwave with the Legacy Soundwave. Let me just bring him out. Here he is with his previous Soundwave version. As you can see, there is some similarities here and there, but there is some major differences. For one, you can obviously tell the legs are pretty differently sculpted. Of course, they actually have, it's pretty cool how they did this. I'm not sure why, but you can tell that the side, they pretty much tried to mimic that whole panel section that lifts up on this version, but it does not change on this version. Of course, the major change is this entire backpack, because of course, this one transforms into a ship, this one transforms into a boombox. You can obviously tell there's a major sculpt change there. The head sculpt is completely different. Also, another really cool thing they recreated, which I did not know was present on this mold, because of course I never had the Netflix version. They actually kept that whole blaster section, which helps really keep up or kind of steady the ship, and they actually included it on the arm. So the arm is pretty much, I would say, the exact same sculpt from a side view. You can really tell they are very similar. The only thing different is you can actually tell this whole blaster piece right there is not present on the Shatterglass version. So the arms are quite similar. They both have the one closed fist and the one pointed finger, and of course there's always the major deco change, and the head sculpt is completely different. As you can see, they have both the faux chest or crotch piece, supposed to recreate the control panel for the boombox, and I'm pretty sure the chest section, I think, is slightly longer this way and slightly taller with this one. That could just be my eyes playing tricks on me. I'm not sure. They could be the exact same size, but of course, deco changed, completely different. Accessories, the exact same thing. This one, of course, came with the 2 mini cons. This one did not. It was just a solo retail release where you could get anywhere. This is an exclusive. So there is some major mold changes, of course the deco, of course, but there is some major similarities, like the arms and legs and the feet are quite similar as well. Between the two, honestly, I think probably I prefer the Shatterglass, but that is just my opinion. Of all many Soundwaves we've gotten recently, the Siege, the Legacy, the Netflix, and the Shatterglass, which one do you like the most? Let me know in the comment section down below, but I think they do look very cool next to each other. And that's pretty much it for that Soundwave comparison. Here he is with another boombox blaster from the Shatterglass Wave 2 line. And of course, if you still had worries or concerns that they were a repaint or the same mold, you can see here that they're a completely different mold, completely different, nothing similar at all, but they do look very cool next to each other. I have to say, I like the robot mode of Soundwave more than this one, but of the boombox, I think they did a little bit better of a job with the blaster here, but that is just my opinion. But they do look pretty cool next to each other. And for another Shatterglass Wave 2 comparison, here he is with Slicer, which I previously reviewed on the channel. And that's pretty much it for comparisons. So let's now get down to the final thoughts for the Transformers Shatterglass Wave 2 Voyager class sound. Let's now get down to the final thoughts for the Transformers Shatterglass Wave 2 Voyager class Soundwave. Starting in the boombox mode, I think overall it's pretty good. I actually really do like the deco. The really nice transparent blue plastic for the whole cassette section is actually super cool, and the red Decepticon symbol right there actually looks super cool on the chest, and on the boombox mode that actually looks really nice. And if you do open it up, of course, you can put the cassettes inside, which is always a really fun feature. And for some reason, with my copy of this version, of course, it could be everyone's copy. I haven't seen that many reviews for this. Mine, the cassettes really just shoot out. You probably saw it if you watched the full review. You probably saw laser just shoot out really fast, which I'm not sure if that was their intent, but it's a pretty cool, fun feature. It's actually much better than the Legacy version, because when I reviewed Rumble recently, if you watched that review, unfortunately, his kind of just got caught in the whole box section. It really wouldn't open. That sometimes happens on this, but most of the time it will open pretty smoothly, and I'll actually launch the cassette out, which is always fun. But if you do look in there, there's actually some really nice interior detailing on the inside of the whole cassette section. It actually kind of looks like there's a cassette in there, but there really isn't. Also, I really do like the whole really nice console section on the boombox, the play, the pause, forward and back. That's always super cool. I kind of wish it was a little bit more flush with the other parts of the boombox. For example, if you have either Shatterglass Blaster or Kingdom Blaster, the entire front section of the boombox is actually very flush and smooth. There's all the knobs and consoles and section, which actually looks super good. Unfortunately, on this one, it kind of sticks out a little bit. It looks fine from the front view, but from some side views, it looks a little bit weird. But that's a very minor complaint. Accessory storage is just okay. Most people consider whenever you store the accessories on any Soundwave for the boombox mode, it's considered to be like a battery. That's actually what they use for the original G1 toy. It was considered sort of like a battery to power it, which is always a pretty fun little backstory for his accessories. It just looks okay, but there is actually a plus to storing the accessories on the back. It actually adds some stability to the boombox mode, because I don't know if you noticed earlier, when he was in his boombox mode without the accessories, it does tend to lean back a little bit, so the accessories do help kind of prop it up a little bit, so I do give a plus to that. But from the back view, it just looks a little bit weird, but of course from the front view, you can barely even tell they're there. Of course, again, the accessories, they're just okay. He comes with the shoulder cannon, the blaster, and that useless white blaster, which I actually do not have in his hand right now, because I consider it to be a very useless accessory. Of course, you can still combine all three accessories and form that huge mega cannon. I didn't show this because it actually doesn't even show that option in the instructions. That really started in Siege, so I didn't really see it was a purpose to show it in this version. It's an okay accessory. I really don't think it's very relevant to Soundwave, but of course, the only reason really why they included it is because it came with the original version, the Earthrise one or the Netflix one, so that's why they threw it in there. It's an okay one, but I don't really see myself using it to display that often. But of course, the classic shoulder cannon and the blaster always look really good in his hands and his shoulder. That looks awesome. And of course, the cassettes themselves, I think, are pretty solid. I actually really do like the Laserbeak molds. Of course, it's just a straight up redeco from the Siege version. I don't have the original of this mold, the Netflix one, which that one really is just a slight tweak from the Siege one. It's just a little bit more shiny, I'm pretty sure. I never had it in hand, but from pictures, that's really all I could tell. I actually really do like this version. The very simple design, really just red and gray, and I think it really works. So there's a ton of mechanical design and detail on the wings, which is always super cool, and the little thrusters in the back is actually super cool. And you can have them prop on Soundwave's shoulder, which it's a little bit hard to balance, but I was able to do it pretty easy. I think it looks super cool there. Ravage, it's just okay. I've never really been a big fan of the molds from Siege or Netflix. Never really been a big fan. It really doesn't seem like it's Ravage to me. I really do hope maybe they redo this figure kind of like in the 86 line, like with Rumble. They made a version in Siege. Not that many people liked it. It didn't come with the blasters or the pile drivers, and they remade it in the 86 Studio Series line, and it was so much better. Of course, the price was a bit much, so I really like if they could maybe remake Ravage, maybe in a 2-pack with Frenzy or Ratbat or something like that, either in the Legacy or the Studio Series line. I think that'd be super cool, and I would definitely get that. But just a brand new mold and not a redeco, because again, not that big a fan. But of course, of the deco of the paint apps, I actually really do like the mixture of the white and blue and silver. I think it really works on that figure. I actually probably might prefer it over the Siege one, which is pretty funny because the Siege one really is supposed to be the G1, appearance of him. But I actually kind of prefer this one over that one, but that's just my opinion. Getting down to transformation into the robot mode, of course, the cassettes overall are pretty simple. Laserbeak, I really don't think you probably need the instructions, even if you haven't had this figure before. You can pretty much easily do it on your own. Ravage is just kind of annoying because it's a very cramped kind of fiddly transformation. On my copy, unfortunately, if you watch the transformation segment, one of his legs tends to pop off quite a bit. It's actually not loose. It's actually a very tight hinge articulation-wise, but whenever I transform it, for some reason, the same one always pops off, so that's a bit unfortunate. But even taking that out of the mix, the transformation just isn't that fun. It's much more smooth with Laserbeak. Yes, it's a lot more simple, but it's a lot more fun to do. And of course, cassette-wise, it's pretty easy to transform into both ways. Only, I would say, I think it's like 4 steps for Laserbeak and 7 steps for Ravage. Transformation for Soundwave, I would say, is actually pretty simplistic. There's some areas that are actually pretty similar to the Siege and Legacy version. The whole leg transformation is actually pretty similar. The entire foot folding out and that entire section covering over the bottom, if you know what I'm talking about. And the arm design, the arm transformation is pretty similar as well. Not exactly, but pretty similar. So if you have those 2 versions, you'll probably catch on pretty quickly on how to transform it both ways. Getting into the robot mode, I'm actually very impressed. I really like the design of the head sculpt, the whole bandana going in the back. Some people were hoping it was actually going to be a cloth, but it's not a cloth material. Honestly, I really would have preferred either way. I think the reason why they didn't do cloth is because they were worried probably how long it would last. They were worried maybe it could get dirty, maybe it could untie from the figure, it could rip, probably something like that. So they were probably going to go, they wanted to go for more of a long-term use, like it could stay there forever, so they just sculpted in a bandana. I actually think it looks pretty cool. If you, when it comes around, you can see it's actually tied back there, and that actually looks pretty good sculpt-wise. I think that's the only sculpt change from Soundwave. From the Netflix one, I think this is the only difference. I don't have that figure again. That's just my ballpark guess. I've never had the figure in hand. Just for my mental memory of pictures and reviews, I think that's the only change. Of course, the difference between these 2 cassettes and the Netflix slash Earthrise one, there's no change as well, just a straight deco change. But I actually really do like the accessories. They look super cool on them. The head sculpt looks awesome. You can again have Laserbeak perch on his shoulder, which I think looks super cool. And I really do like the whole faux chest control section. As you can see, they kind of did the same thing on the Legacy and Siege version, where you actually think that's the whole control panel for the boombox, but the actual one is on the back. And yes, sometimes when they do faux pieces, they do tend to kind of get in the way. I don't have any examples off my mind right now, but there is some situations where they will do faux pieces, and sometimes they get in the way of either the robot or alt mode, or sometimes the transformation. But I really don't think it compromises any mode. I actually think it's pretty cool. That's the actual one on the back, but the fake one is on the front. So that's a pretty cool thing they didn't have to do, but I actually think it's kind of nice. Articulation's pretty standard for a Voyager class figure. I think they probably could have put in a wrist rotation. It would have been nice maybe if they had put a cover over the gap where you fold in the hand. Unfortunately, there is no panel to cover that gap, but that's okay. I was kind of expecting that because that's actually how all the Soundwaves have been from Siege to Legacy to Netflix. They've always had that little gap there. Also, they probably could have done a better ankle pivot. I really don't see why they couldn't have. My only guess of why they didn't do a wrist rotation is because there is a gap there where the hand folds in for transmissions. That would be pretty hard to put in a swivel there, very limited space. As for the ankle pivot, I really think they could have done a better one. There is one, it's just a very limited movement. Back and forth, but everything else, good leg articulation, arm rotation, actually a way past 90 elbow bends. That's pretty cool. So you can get them in some really cool poses, some more simple ones like this one you're seeing here, or some more dramatic ones. So definitely a figure I suggest you get. Also, I do have to cover the price. I actually didn't mention this earlier. I wanted to save it for last because it's actually not a problem. I think I paid, just guessing here, I think it was about $53 or like $52 for this. Of course, you might have premium or not, so of course you have to factor in maybe $7 shipping. Even I would say with $7 shipping, this is 100% worth it, because there's some that are not that good of a deal. Like, I'm pretty sure Flame War, I think I paid around $43 for that, and that's only like a few dollars less than this one, and that's a deluxe. This is a Voyager. It comes with 3 accessories and 2 cassettes, and a comic book, so I honestly consider this definitely worth it. Even if you don't have premium, that's of course around $60 if you don't have premium, about $7 shipping, but if you do, definitely get this, because I'm pretty sure the original Netflix release was around, I think, $53. That's my guess. And it came with all the exact same things, of course, just a deco change. And you actually have a new added comic book. No, I don't really consider the comic book 100% worth a ton of money, in my opinion. Can I justify a comic book to be worth $5? No. But honestly, as it is, the price really doesn't factor in a comic book. I think this is the exact same price it was to get the original Netflix release. And yes, sometimes they just try and justify, you know, another added $8, like with Flame War. It was about $43 for a deluxe with an added Midicon. They're like, oh, comic book is another $10. But with this one, I really don't think they try to justify that price. So honestly, of all the ones that are definitely a good bang for your buck, I would say that probably this one and Ultra Magnus are probably the most worth figures, because of course this is an exclusive. It was an exclusive in the Netflix line. Most people weren't able to get it, so yes, probably people do want the original deco, but honestly I think this really works. I was again never really that interested in the Netflix one because I got the Siege one around the same time, so I was never really dying to get it, so I'm really glad I was able to get this one because I'm fine now. I got a Boombox Soundwave. No, it's not the original classic G1 Soundwave deco. Maybe I'll get that version someday, but for now I'm definitely good on Soundwaves. I have like 4 now. But let me know what you think of this figure in the comment section down below. Will you be getting this figure? I highly suggest to, because honestly, price-wise, I think it's definitely worth it. It is a Hasbro Pulse exclusive. I know some people are kind of not really unsure about buying it because of the whole yellowing problem. As I mentioned before, if you didn't hear me, I've never experienced the yellowing problem on any figure, from Shatterglass to Siege to Netflix. Any figure in my collection, I've not experienced it that I know of. Yeah, I look at my figures quite a bit. I transform them. I do stop motions, reviews, tons of pictures and stuff. So that I know of, I don't think any of my figures have yellowed. So I would say go for it, but of course I could be wrong, because I've seen a lot of pictures actually of Shatterglass Starscream. I've seen a lot of pictures of him turn like yellow, so it could be, we really don't know the cause. I don't know the cause, so I would say just go for it, and if it turns yellow, you really don't know what to, I really don't know what to do, so just take a gamble. You know, it's a pretty good mold, and unfortunately if it turns yellow, it turns yellow. We'll see. Maybe they'll try and fix this whole yellowing problem sometime. Again, never experienced it, so I really don't know what is the cause. But that's pretty much it for this review. Let me know what you think of this figure in the comment section down below. Hope you enjoyed, and lots of more content coming soon. Actually, a lot more videos coming soon about Shatterglass. I think I'll probably be doing a ranking video of Shatterglass Wave 2, and actually probably a video discussing my entire Shatterglass collection, showing them all on display, and another video showing all the comic books that I have so far. So hit that like button, and of course subscribe if you want those videos, and of course let me know what you think of this figure in the comment section down below, and I'll